You talk about how good the Scoot Swarm deck is. I figured I'd throw a video in to show exactly just how good it is, but how broken it is also. This is the deck. This is my Scoot Swarm deck in action. I did make one or two changes to it, but I know that people are interested to see exactly what it is. When the game's over, I will go back and show you. But you see where I'm at. I have over 100 creatures, and I'm doubling it. And I'm over 500. I'm going to be way over 500 life in 2 turns. And yeah, the guy's probably waiting for the deck to actually probably break. And what I mean break is basically just the game will be to the point where it just don't want to play no more. So I'm going to cover this. But you look at it, I'm making 92 creatures. And I can double that with another with one of my lands being played. So this deck is really extreme right now, and this is probably going to take forever. Or the guy is not quitting. Probably has a board wipe, but still, look at the power on the board. They're just 1/1s, but I am literally doubling the number of creatures. My life is over 500. Probably going to be over 700 or 800, and the game will probably leave us in a draw. And I can throw out even another land, and I am doubling essentially about 300 creatures. But this deck has it all, and I wanted to show exactly how this deck has it all. I will put in the description the deck list. I mean, look at that. He's at 42. The next turn, if my creatures do not get board wiped, I am throwing almost over 300 life or 300 creatures at him in one turn. And I'm only on like turn 7 in the game. But you see my board. It is insane. I mean, I'm going to zoom in. Look at this. I've got 50 Scoot Swarms. Scoot Swarm is an insane card if left unchecked. I've got 2 of them on the battlefield. I've got 57 there. I've got 137 there. And I'm still making another 40 on top of that. And I'm gaining 3 life for each one. My life total is at 640 right now. And I'm still going to get another 100 at least. So, what do? I mean, the game keeps threatening to break. I haven't done it yet. I'm kind of curious if the game would break. But this is how insane this deck can be. So I can hit for over 200 on the next turn, which I only need 42. He's only got 13 creatures, so I just got to last one more turn with all these creatures. And I've got 700 life. I'm going to end around 750, 800 life. And we'll see if the game actually breaks or not. But I want to show exactly what this deck does. I mean, I talk about it, but now you're seeing it in action online. How insane is that? This is my Scoot Swarm. I like to call it my Scoot deck. And as you can see, I mean, this is a deck in action, and all I'm doing is gaining the life. I got my 2 cards at the end of turn. He passed already. He just passed. He's waiting for the game to end. So I'm just going to do this. Just going to do this. Either he's got some kind of board wipe, or he just wants the game to be over and he just wants to see what I do. I'm attacking with everything. See what he does, if anything. But this is the deck. This is what this deck does in action. And if I can throw down 2 creatures here and here, that's going to double my creatures, then double them again. Then I play land, and that's going to double that again. Yep, he just quit. But this is what the deck does. If you have board wipes, I have been able to rebuild my board really quickly and still get a win. So I have done a lot of stuff with this deck. Again, I'm going to go through it. I did make a few changes, so the deck is going to be shown here in a minute. And I will put a description in there. But this deck is I have got a crap load of wins. I mean, I want to show you real quick. When you go up to profile, I'm only in silver. But I have built this deck pretty much from when I got back on Arena. And when the standard rotated, this has been my deck. I was in Diamond last time because of this deck. Do I get losses with it? Absolutely. When you play against Control, it is a problem. But I have still won some games against it. So I'm going to cover the deck one more time. I just want to show a little bit in action. I'm going to make this video and then I will put a description in the profile. But that was a deck in action. And the deck is consistent. Again, let me zoom in. Oop, zoom in's the other way. And we're going to start with this. It's doing that. So we're going to start off. I'm playing 4 of everything except for Augur of Autumn, Cosmic Elixir, Rubble Rouser, and Ashaya. I like the Snowlands. I think they're really cool art. But I got 7 snow-covered plains, 14 snow-covered forests, and all 4 evolving wilds. So that's that. So let's go through the deck real quick. And I have made a few changes, which is why I'm doing another video on it. Give me a second. I know it's kind of choppy the way it's set up at the moment. Give me a second here. I'll zoom out just a little bit. So when you look at the deck, and again, I know I've done a video on this deck, but this deck is good enough. I want to do another one with the changes. But I've got... trying to adjust it so it looks good. And again, it's zoomed in. Lunarch Veteran. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under control, you gain a life. It has the stirp, so when the creature dies, you can recast it. And when you recast it, you can play it for 2. And then whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you gain a life. If Luminous Phantom would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, you exile it instead. Neverwinter Dryad, he's another one to add some lands. Very nice card. Sacrifice him. Search a library for a basic force, put him onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Again, this deck is built on that concept. Sorry it's so shaky. I'm trying to get this to work. And no, I can't do it. Kazandu Necroport. This is another one that gains me life, which is what I want. Whenever a land enters the battlefield on my control, I gain a life. Lotus Cobra. Whenever land enters the battlefield on my control, add a mana of any color. Prosperous Innkeeper. He gives me a treasure token, which is, as you can see, the treasure token sacrifices this artifact to add 1 mana of any color. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield on my control, you gain a life. That one and the Lunarch Veteran are the 2 that makes this deck gain so much crapload of life, along with Scootsworm, which I'll be into in a minute. Augur of Autumn. When he is in play, he is fantastic. You may look at the top card of your library any time. You may play lands from the top of your library, and as long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. It's very easy to get 1 and 2, and then when Ashaya is in play, then yes, you can get 3 different powers very easily, and Shaya is not that hard to get into play either. Scootsworm, he is the one that makes this deck go. He is the... as Mitch from Commander's Quarters likes to say, my golden pig of this deck. But Scoot Swarm is a beast. And I have won games without this card with this deck because I can make creatures come on the battlefield insanely quick too. But when he's in play, whenever a land hits the battlefield, which there's magic with this deck, whenever a land hits the battlefield, then you make that many Scoot Swarms. If you have 6 or more lands. If you have less, then you just make 1/1 green and set creature tokens. Either way, you're making a lot of creatures with this deck, with this card. Cosmos Elixir, at the beginning of my end step, draw a card. That keeps my life going. If my life total is greater than my starting life total, otherwise I gain 2 life. So starting life total is at 20, and that just keeps going. Rebel Rousing, that's another card that is fantastic. That's an ad that I put from this new set that came in, the new Campina. And what it does is, it's a hideaway 5, so I look at my top 5 cards. I put a card I choose, which is a lot of the ways how I get Ashaya into play so easily. But if I control 10 or more creatures, I may play the exile card without paying its mana cost. Again, Ashaya is a really key card, and I'm going to explain that here in a minute. But this card, let me talk about this card. This has been an ad. I had 2 cards. I went down to this one because the other one was just adding treasure tokens, and that really didn't do my deck any justice, so I took it back out. But this card right here, I make a crap load of Scoot Swarms. I attack with all those Scoot Swarms, or even with other creatures when stuff is tapped, because this card will come into play when they attack with most stuff, because I won't have a big board when this comes into play most of the time. So then even if I do, I attack with my extra creatures, and I get 1/1 citizens. It's very easy for this deck to have 10 creatures really quickly. So then usually I will play a Shaya because of all the creatures going in attacking, which is how I got Ashaya in that last game when she was on the field. And then I'll get a 1/1 green-white citizen token for each creature attacking. So usually I use my extra Scoot Swarms. I use the insects from the Scoot Swarms. I don't use the Scoot Swarm itself because obviously I have that. Then every time I've done it with Ashaya, she comes into play, which all of a sudden everything's a land, so all of a sudden Scoot Swarm's going to trigger making more creatures because of Ashaya coming into play, because that's now making everything lands. So automatically I'm already getting more creatures because of Ashaya coming into play herself. And then I'm getting all these creatures on top of that. Plus I'm gaining life for all of that. So it all kind of, this deck is very, you talk about magic synergy. This deck is a huge synergistic deck where it's just, it makes creature tokens, it gains you life, it draws cards. I mean, pretty much anything you want to do in a deck, this deck does, except for the control portion. But I really love it. Now let's go to another key piece of this deck, Ashaya. Her power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands I control. She makes all non-creatures, all non-token creatures, so anything that's not a token, is now a force in addition to other types. So not only do I have creatures, but now I can tap creatures for mana on top of that. Kind of like an elf. This is kind of an elf ball without any elves in it. It's really, really cool. And then with Ashaya going, she makes everything else. So every time I throw down Lotus Cobra, I throw down a Kazandu Lectoport, I gain crap load of life, I gain crap loads of Scoot Swarms, or insect creatures, which normally when she comes into play, she's 5 mana, that's 5 mana. So when either one of those come into play, I'm pretty much at 6 mana, 6 lands. And at that point, Scoot Swarm is insanely already throwing out crap loads of other Scoot Swarms. And here's the other thing to think about. When you throw out the Prosperous Innkeeper, that gives you a treasure token, which usually I use for a Scoot Swarm. So this deck is very synergistic. And then the rest of I don't have any control on it because it produces creatures left and right. I mean, if I have a board wipe, it's very easy for me to throw him out and to start throwing out more creatures from my deck. I have actually lost because of milling myself with this deck. But then I'm just playing 7 planes just to make sure I have enough for the Rabble Rousing, the Lunarch Veteran, And then I'm playing 14 Force and Evolving Wilds just to keep that going. And I'm almost thinking about putting, instead of Evolving Wilds, going with those lands that New Capenna has produced, where you can actually sacrifice that, doing the same thing Evolving Wilds does, but it would also gain you a life on top of that, which actually is better. Which I'm actually going to probably do right when this video's over. I'm not going to do it now. But then when you throw it all together and you have the deck go, I mean, you just saw the results. Like I said, I'm going to go into the description. I'm going to put a listing of my deck. This deck I have had since pretty much the Screw Swarm came out. Augur of Autumn came out. That's when the deck really took off, and Prosperous Innkeeper. So all these things together, after the rotation, this has been my deck. This has been my deck. I've played with it here and there to make some changes. They're very minor changes at this point. But if you go back and look at my last time I did this deck, on my last deck tech, on my last deck tech, you saw what I had. And again, I've added 3 different cards. I've taken out several cards. And I've played with it. But this is my end thing right now. And this deck just seems to just flow. So I will please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're into Magic, come check this out, because this deck is fantastic. Alright. Thanks for your time. Like, share, and subscribe. And leave any comments to what you want. Try the deck out. It is definitely a fun deck to play with. Alright. I'm out.